this tutorial, we will use scriptable object script to make a player jump high, as you can see. And after few duration, the jump ability will disappear. And in order to add power-ups to our player game object, we will use the scriptable object script. This is a pretty beginner-friendly tutorial on scriptable object script. And before I jump into the tutorial, I especially want to thanks Van Sheni for taking membership on my Patreon page. And if you guys are interested to take membership on my Patreon page, then you can take membership on Patreon of mine. And then you will unlock some exclusive benefits. So without furthering delay, let's jump right into this tutorial. In order to add power-ups to our game, we're gonna use scriptable object. Scriptable object, basically you can think of data container. We're gonna have some data, example for player speed, player jump height, like that. And we're gonna use that scriptable object or that container in order to add a power to our player game object. But before that, we're gonna create a script in order to collect this red portion. And if we do, then we just want to add up the power up. So we're gonna make the scriptable object later. So now let's create a script for this. So we will move over to our project tab, assets, then a script folder. Let's right click, create mono behavior script, and name that script to something like player collectibles, or you can name it to something like player ability. So I already created a script called player ability. So I will select my player game object in the hierarchy, and let's select the script, which is in my case player ability, and I'm gonna drag it over to this add component section in the inspector. And let's double click on this script to open that up in Visual Studio. So first thing what we need to do, if we move over to Unity editor, we need to keep track of the start jump height. So since we want to add up a jump ability, I just want to make sure that we have the starting jump. If we move over to my script, player script, we can see the jump height by default I have set it to 8. So once we're gonna collect this red portion, we're gonna make the jump height something around 15 to just add up the power up. And after some period of time, we just gonna set back our jump height parameter back to 8. So we will create a parameter to just keep track of starting jump height. So that's why. So let's move over to our script, and we will remove this update function we don't need. Instead, we will use the start function. And before we do, let's go to top of our class, and let's create a parameter to just keep track of to just track of that starting jump height of our player. So we're gonna make a private, it doesn't need to be public, and that will be float type, and we can call this one jump height, jump underscore height, just like that. And we just created this parameter to just to keep track of the starting jump height. And if we move over to script and take a look on inside this player script, we have this jump height parameter inside our player script. So we need a reference to our player script, then we can access this jump height parameter, and we can store this jump height parameter inside this jump height parameter that we created inside our player ability script. So we need a basically we need a reference to our player script. So since player script is sitting on the same game object, so we're gonna use for that a function. So let's go to top of our class first, and let's make a private. So it doesn't need to be public, so we can make it private simply. And the component that we're looking for is a player or player script. So we're gonna type this player, and we have to name the parameter or the script that we just can call anything. So I'm gonna call it player with non p capitalized later. And now we have the player. Basically we just created a player script variable, and to grab that we're gonna use the start function. And we will use this dot game object. It's basically referencing itself, and then we're gonna use dot get component, make these arrows, and inside these arrows we need to put the script that script or the component that we're looking for. So since we're looking for our player, so we will type player, then make this first bracket, and then close that up with semicolon. So this dot game object basically referencing this player game object itself, and we just taking this player skip, and now we have the player skip, and we're gonna store it into this player skip variable that we created over here. So now we have the player skip. Let's put there, and let's put it inside our player. So we're gonna set player equal to this. Basically we're just setting the player skip, this dot game object dot get component player skip, and now we basically taken this player skip and we store it into this player skip variable that we created in the top, and now we have the reference of our player skip. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna access the jump height parameter. So first thing, we will set the jump height, jump underscore height equal to player dot jump height. What we doing, we just going over to this player script, and then we taking this jump height parameter and we storing into this jump height parameter the parameter that we created over here. So now we can see the we just took our starting jump height. So the jump height we have set inside our player script, we can see is 8. So this jump height parameter over here will be 8, and we just storing that jump height parameter into this jump underscore height parameter, so it will be 8 in the start of the game. So now we have the starting jump height, and what we're gonna do now, we need to collect this red portion, and if we do that, then we just want to want to increase our jump height parameter. So if we select our red portion, then go over to inspector, you will notice I assigned this red portion as a red portion tag, and also I added a collider called circle collider 2D, and I just check the is trigger as check, so it's not gonna register our player to pass through it. And make sure you adjust the circle collider 2D. And also I have a animator component to play the animation clip, and let me show you. So if I go ahead and then play my game, you will see as soon as we're gonna press down space key on our keyboard, immediately our player will jump with jump height parameter, and the jump height parameter we have seen inside player skip is 8, and we just grab it the reference. So we should see that we can just increase that parameter. So if I press down space key on my keyboard, sorry, I'm gonna turn down my volume a bit, something just like this, and now this seems fine. And if I go ahead play my game and then press down space key, you can see we jumping. But if we triggering with this red portion, it's doing nothing. So let's get out of play mode. So we need to check if we trigger with this red portion, and we want to check the trigger if the trigger if this game object has a tag called red portion, and we can indeed notice we assigned this red portion game object as a red portion tag. So make sure you just assign it with some certain tag. And now we will go over to script, and we will use this on trigger enter 2D function. So this function get called when we trigger with something we do know, and we can check what we trigger it with by taking this collision parameter. We can extract information such as the name of the game object that we trigger it with, the name of the game object, the tag, the component, or anything like that we can extract. So what we want to do over here, we just want to check. So we will use this if condition, then make first bracket and some curly brackets. And what we want to check over here, we just want to check if the game object that we trigger it with has a tag called red portion. So we will type collision dot game object dot tag, and if it's equals to our red underscore portion, and make sure you spell it correct. And sorry, it should be portion, the spelling should be correct, and you need to put inside this quotation. So collision dot game object means the game object that we trigger it with. So if this player trigger with this red portion, so collision dot game object there will be this red portion, and after that we accessing the tag of this game object, and we can see the tag in the inspector is red portion, and we checking if the tag is equals to red portion, means we triggering with this red portion game object. So what we should do now, we need to collect this basically we need to increase the jump height parameter. But before we do that, we just want to check if we really trigger it with this red portion or not. And also after collecting or triggering with this, I just want to destroy it right away. But before we destroy, we just want to print out the message. So for printing out, we're gonna type debug.log, and we will say something like inside quotation player trigger it with and top of that we can use this plus icon to add a custom message, and we're gonna use this collision dot game object dot name, means the name object the game object we trigger name of the game object that we trigger it with. So we definitely gonna trigger with this red portion, and we can notice red portion we name it as a red portion in the hierarchy. So this the game object name will be the red portion. So this message should be pop up player trigger it with red portion, the name of the game object. And after triggering with that or collecting, you can simply assume then I just want to destroy it right away. And to destroy, we're gonna use this destroy function, and destroy function will take the game object that we want to destroy. So we will pass collision dot game object, means the game object that we trigger it with. So in our case that will be red portion. And now let's close that up with semicolon, and we're gonna press down Ctrl S to save our script, and let's move over to Unity editor, and we're gonna check that out quickly. And we should see that as soon as we're gonna trigger or just gonna collect this red portion, the message should pop up because we assigned this red portion as a red portion tag. Make sure you just assign it with some certain tag, and immediately it's gonna do that thing that we have done inside our scripting. So just wait a moment, and once our compilation is done, it's now almost done. And if I select my console tab and then go ahead and then play my game, it should be as soon as we're gonna trigger with this, the message will pop up immediately. It says player triggered with red portion, and after that this red portion will be destroyed right away after collecting that. And let me show you. So just wait a minute, and let's check this out quickly. And indeed we can notice, so if I pause my game, pause button in the top in order to pause our game, and if we navigate to our console tab, we can see a message just gets pop up as soon as we trigger it with this red portion. A message just gets pop up says player trigger it with red underscore portion. So we just printing out this message. So instead of doing this, we just want to increase the jump height parameter. So we will simply get out of play mode. Basically we just want to make our player jump a little bit more. So for that we're gonna use a scriptable object as I have explained earlier. Basically that is a data container, and we're gonna use that data in order to add power-ups to our game. So for that what you need to do, navigate to your project tab, then assets, right click, create, and then go scroll down a bit, says scripting, and then click on this scriptable object script, and you can name that script to something like jump ability or whatever you just want to call it. You can just name it, and it's totally up to you. And I already have a script called a jump ability, and I have that scriptable object script. So I'm gonna double click on it in order to open that up. So this script not gonna sit on an object, so that's why we're not able to notice mono behavior over here. And it will create the asset menu. Basically it's just gonna create the assets inside this assets folder, and we can define the path over here. And you can see the create menu, the file name, the menu name, and you can just put slash in order to change the path. So first thing, I just want to replace this name. Instead of calling scriptable, I'm gonna call this something like ability. Let's call it ability or power, then slash jump ability. And what ability I want to have inside this jump ability scriptable object script, I want to have the jump height. So I'm gonna create a public float, and I'm gonna call this one jump height since we want to have a jump height ability. So we're gonna call this one jump height, and by default I'm gonna set as something like 15, if a little bit bigger number. And then we're gonna press down Control S to save our script, and let's get over to Unity editor. So it's gonna create that asset, or basically that data, inside our project app. So basically we need to move over to these assets, and we can create that, create a object or a asset with that script, which is a scriptable object. You can think of it that is a data container, which we can specify the data that we really want to use it. So we can navigate to project tab, then assets, and if we right click on assets, then go to create. In the top, in the bottom, you can see ability, because if I move over to my script, I just name it ability, then slash jump ability, and we can see the file name is jump ability. So we can move over to Unity editor, then assets, right click, create. In the top, and in the bottom you will see ability, whatever you name it, and I just name it jump ability. So just I'm gonna click on it, and we can call this one jump ability. Just I'm gonna leave it like that. And if we select our jump ability, move over to inspector, we can see the jump height by default we have chosen 15. So right now what we need to do, we need to take this scriptable object or this data, and we're gonna put it inside this jump height parameter. So what we're gonna do now, we will move over to our script, and we will move over to our player ability script, and instead of printing out message saying something like player triggered with that red portion, we just want to increase the jump height parameter of our player. To do that, first thing what we need to do, we need a reference to this data, basically this jump ability script data. So we will go to top of our class, and we're gonna make a public parameter for it, because we need a reference of it. So we're gonna make a public, and the script or the data that we're looking for is a jump ability. So we're gonna type that, and we can call this one jump ability with non j capitalized later. And now we have the reference, and make sure you save your script, then go over to inspector and then assign it. So now what we will do, instead of printing out message, we're going to remove that. We will set the jump height. So we will go to our dot jump height, and we will set equal to jump ability dot jump height. What we're doing, simply we're just going over to this jump ability scriptable object, and we just taking this jump height parameter, and we putting inside this player jump height that you can see over here. And in the inspector we have chosen 8, and over here by default we have given 15. So basically we're just going over to player script, as you can see, basically means this player script, and then we accessing this jump height of our player, and then we're setting equal to jump ability dot jump height, means we're just taking this jump height parameter from our jump ability script and just putting there. And now we have done that thing, and if we save our script, then move over to Unity editor, it will do that thing. And once it's done, you're gonna able to notice. So as soon as we're gonna collect that red portion, we will jump even more. So first thing, we will jump with 8 unit, but as soon as we will collect that red portion, we will immediately able to jump with 15 unit, the number that we have given by default. But we can play around in the inspector, we can see we can set it to 20, but I'm gonna go with 15, and let me show you. So let's click on this play button in the top in order to play our game, and let's check that out quickly. So firstly we will able to jump small, but as soon as we will collect our red portion, we will immediately able to jump even more. So if I press down space key on my keyboard, you can see we jumping little. But if we collect our red portion, sorry, it's lagging a little bit. Okay, so we got a problem. Basically we need to get out of play mode, and if we select our player game object in the hierarchy, go over to inspector, player ability script, we can see jump ability, and it says not jump ability. Basically we need to drag the scriptable object that we created, so we just forgot to do that. So make sure you go over to your assets and find out the scriptable object script that you created. So in my case I have it over here, so I'm going to take that one and then drag it over to that slot, and now we have the reference. Basically we have the jump ability scriptable object script, or basically that jump ability or that jump height parameter, and we can go ahead and we can play our game, and by now it's gonna work fine. So make sure you have the reference. So that's why I have explained earlier that you need to save your script and then you have to assign it, and you need to make sure it's perfect, else it's not gonna work at all. So in the start of the game we will able to jump little. So if I press down space key on my keyboard, we jumping little, but as soon as we collecting that red portion, we can see our player is jumping even more, and we just died. So we also need to set back our jump height parameter back to normal. To set that, what we need to do, first thing, I will make my move speed a little bit low. So I will select my player in the hierarchy. Let's go over to player escape, and then move speed, I'm gonna make it something around 1.5, and that's it. And I'm gonna take my red portion, let's drag it somewhere around here, and it's fine. And if we move over to our scape, we just increasing the jump height over here. So we also need to set back our jump height parameter back to which is 8 unit. To do that, we're gonna make a function inside this player ability script. Let's make it somewhere around here. So we're gonna make a function, so void, and let's call this function set jump back to normal, just like that. Let's make first bracket and some curly brackets, and we do know that we have the jump height parameter that we created in the top, we have it. So this is the starting jump time. So what we need to do, so first thing, we need to move over to our player scape, and then we need to access the jump height of this player game object, and then we're gonna set equal to this jump height that we created inside this player ability script over here. So first thing, we will go to our player scape, so player dot jump height, and then we're gonna set equal to our jump height, and then close that up with semicolon. And we created this jump height parameter to just to take the starting jump height of our player. So we also need to call this function in order to execute this line of code. Means we're gonna set back our jump height of our player back to normal. To do that, to call it, we're gonna call it once we're gonna collect our red portion. So after some period of time, I just want to do that. So what you need to do, you need to use this invoke function. Basically you need to use this invoke, and this invoke inside quotation, first thing, it will take the function name. So make sure you put inside quotation, and you can just copy the function name, and you can put it inside this quotation. And as a second argument, you can pass the time. After that amount of time, the jump height will be normal. So you can just choose the time or the duration. So I will move over to top of my class, and I'm going to choose a duration for that. So let's make a public float, and we can call this one duration ability. So let's call this one duration ability, just like that. And I'm gonna set equal to 1f. So after 1 second, I just want to do, and as a second argument here, I'm gonna pass my ability duration, just like that. Sorry, duration ability, and then close that up with semicolon. So this invoke function, just gonna call this set jump back to normal function after this much of time. And what this function is really doing, it's basically setting our jump height parameter back to our normal jump height of our player game object. And we can save our scape, and we can move over to Unity editor to check that out. And you can use enumerator as well. You can check out my previous lectures on it, I have. So you can just explore my channel, which is Prime 9, and you can just find that out. Just wait a moment, and once our compilation is done, we can just go ahead and check that out quickly. And now it's done. And if we select our player, move over to player this player ability script, we can see the duration ability is 1. And now if I go ahead and play my game, and then try to jump in the start of the game, we will able to make little jump, but as soon as we gonna collect this red portion, we will able to jump even more, which is 15 unit. But after 1 second the jump just gonna set back to 8 unit. Let me show you, because we just calling that function. So we jumping little, but as soon as we collected that, we can see we jump it, and after 1 second we can notice our player is not jumping at all with that amount of jump height parameter. So I hope you get the idea. So I'm gonna get out of play mode, that how you can use scriptable object in order to add up power-ups to your game, and you can use enumerator function as well. And I will see you in the next tutorial.